So this afternoon we're going to start with talking about internet searching and evaluating sources. Um, so when you guys find sources, how do you evaluate them? Well, you might look and see who wrote it, right? Why do you look to see who wrote it? Yeah, can you trust this person? What kind of expertise does this person have? What else do you look for? Maybe the date when it was published. In fields where, like science and health, current information is most up to date. You don't want to use something from like the 80s, you know? What else might you look at? The journal. Is this a journal that you've seen before? Is it reliable? Where does it come from? Now, certain journals are, they contain peer-reviewed articles. Are you guys aware of what peer-reviewed articles are? I see some nods, some people don't have nods. Peer review means that before an article is published, somebody else, an expert, has looked it over and provided feedback to the editor before they publish it. This kind of feedback could be whether it's a good study or not, whether there was a large enough sample size, is this an important, significant study, is it worth publishing, stuff like that. As graduate students, you may or may not be publishing before you graduate, and when you submit your stuff out for these peer-reviewed journals, don't be upset if you get a rejection. We get rejections all the time, and don't be upset if you get accepted with major revisions. Take a look at what the reviewers have to say, and at least it says accepted, right? But take a look and see what the reviewers have to say. There's been times when I've had that, and I went through the trouble of like learning this whole software program, and I did all this analysis, and I resubmitted, and it was still rejected. I was like, darn. But then I went and published in a different journal, another good journal. So don't worry. There's lots of journals out there, and there's another boot camp that'll cover stuff like this. But it's okay. Your professors, they go through the same process. They submit stuff, they're told they have to make revisions. It's very rare that you submit stuff the first time and it gets accepted. So now, peer-reviewed journal articles are probably more trustworthy than ones that aren't. Not to say that the ones that aren't are bad, it's just they haven't had those other experts' eyes look at it. What else do you look at when you evaluate sources? How about what that person is referencing? If that person's written an article and they've got like 20 sources at the end, but they're all like websites that could be questionable, that may not be a source you want to use. But if that person has maybe 15 references at the end and they're all from top quality books or journals, hey, that might be all right. The number of citations at the end depends on which discipline you're in. So some areas might be like, there's only 15, there's supposed to be like 60 to 80, So keep that in mind. Be also careful about possible biases. Sometimes research is funded by other parties. It could be a private foundation that may have a certain bias. It could be a corporation, again, certain bias. So just be careful about that. And also be careful of the purpose of stuff that you find. We're going to do a little bit of internet searching later. I know you guys all know how to Google, but in case you don't know a fancy Google trick, I'll be showing that in a bit. And the reason I talk about the purpose and the intended audience is sometimes the websites that you come across may seem like they're reliable, like it's got a .edu domain, right? But sometimes people will create stuff on purpose that is incorrect. They might be putting up fake news, they might be putting something up there that's considered a learning tool, and they're trying to get their students to review the source. So just be really careful. Look around if you're not sure, maybe there's like an about section, maybe a disclaimer, who knows. Let's see, anything else I'm forgetting? Oh, accuracy or validity. Oftentimes when you find, when you're trying to do research on a topic, you might find different things written about it, different interpretations, etc. Usually though, if something is accurate, you should be able to find something similar mentioned in several places. So that's kind of like the triangulation, make sure that the information is valid or accurate. So off the top of my head, that's kind of all I have for in terms of evaluating sources. Just keep in mind though, everything that you find, whether it's online or in the library, has to be evaluated. Some of the stuff that we collect are collected for a certain reason, keep in mind purpose. So when you're doing your research, writing your papers or dissertation, just evaluate everything. All the stuff you find in our databases and on our shelves. Okay, so let us search Google. Actually, let's search Google Scholar. How many of you guys use Google Scholar? Okay, everybody. I use it sometimes too. Did you know that through our databases page, Google Scholar is actually listed? How many people knew that? Okay. Do you guys know why it's listed there?
Because of Google Scholar. Peer-reviewed articles.
If I try to connect when I'm at home, like I'll see the list of articles and I can't get them, but if I connect to you on my first, if Rutgers has it, it'll pop up.
Exactly.
Repeat that one more time, please.
We'll say it again and we will demonstrate it. So Google Scholar is free for everybody to use, right? However, Rutgers will have a link, like a Get It a R button, on your Google Scholar results page if you're on campus. If you're off campus, it doesn't know you're a Rutgers student, it doesn't know to give you that button unless you go through our website. So what I just did, going from our library's homepage to the indexes and databases page and then clicking on Google Scholar, is get to this section where there's a special Google Scholar search box here. So you'll see the connection note here. Remember somebody mentioned read what's on here before you start searching? So it says to access full text available through the Rutgers libraries, perform your search in the box above, and then on the results page you can click on Get It a R. Alternatively, you can actually configure Google Scholar at home by customizing your library link setting. I'm just going to click on that link there to show you what that means. You go to your Scholar settings and then you search for your library, and then you just make sure that that box is checked off when you're at home. If you're on campus, will recognize the IP address, so you don't have to do that. And note, remember the sources that Google Scholar looks through is listed here, and the dates covered varies. Updating is also varies. Google has their secret algorithm. Let's just search for something. Oops.
I'm just trying to get to that from the homepage.
Alright, so here I did my search, and here's some results. Look, Get It a R. This must mean it's available at Rutgers. So I'm going to click on that. And it's going to look for my Urban Myths of Organic Farming article. It's a little slow, but it's still spinning, so I'll give it a chance. So you might ask, well, I've learned about all these databases already, and they seem really great. They've got these filtering options, they've got subject headings. Why would I bother using Google Scholar anymore? Anybody think that? Everybody's like, no.
I mean, it's been vetted already, so there's credibility in it. It's like, instead of going to, some people knock, for example, some people knock Wikipedia. They knock it hard, but Wikipedia does have some references as even a starting point to launch off your research. You know, that you can get a synopsis, a summary of what the subject matter or the academic that you're dealing with. But really, why for the Google Scholar, it's all because of its peer review and its people credentials.
Actually, Google Scholar is not all peer-reviewed content. If I go back to that page, no, it's not. Let me just go back to the page that describes. It has other stuff on it.
Okay.
If you look at the sources listed here, it's got scholarly journals, preprints. Preprints are before they're peer-reviewed. Postprints are often after they're peer-reviewed, but not formatted or edited by the editor. They've got dissertations, your dissertations are not peer reviewed.
Okay.
You've got book citations. Books are often not peer reviewed, and technical reports are not peer reviewed. So they're grabbing from all kinds of places. So be very careful about that. However, as you mentioned before about Wikipedia, it could be a starting point. You start there, just keep in mind, remember that in Wikipedia anybody could add stuff up there, right? So just keep that in mind as you're doing your search. There might be a couple of good references at the end to get you started. No problem, that's great.
Sure does.
Cool.
You know,
Now,
you can show the page number, the citation, and everything. You know?
yeah. Then there's good stuff about Google Scholar too. One is it's free. When you guys are done at Rutgers, you won't have access to Rutgers databases anymore, but you can still do research in Google Scholar. It's a great resource. You'll get your citations, as you said, and then you just have to hunt down a way to get the full text of the material. Now, Google Scholar could be useful for those of you who have tried our databases, and you've tried several of them, you've found some things, but not that much, and you just want to find another place to search. Maybe it's like an interdisciplinary topic that our databases are not that great for. Try Google Scholar. It's okay. Just make sure you go through our website so that if you have full text available at Rutgers, you can just click on that link. It's easier than having to then retype everything. Now, this one that I clicked on before, I don't know if it's not loading, so I'm going to go where it says page not loading, open a new window, and I'm going to click on that. And hopefully it'll work. If not, I'll show you the old-fashioned way of looking up these articles. Well, while that's doing its thing, I am going to show you the old-fashioned way, because at some point you'll need it. This looks like it's from Nature from 2001. So the old-fashioned way of looking things up is going back to the library homepage and looking up the journal title. And once we do that, I'm just going to click, that doesn't look like the one I clicked on. Let's try the other one. Okay, here we go. That looks better. The internet just seems to be a little slow. Are you guys experiencing that problem too? Yeah? Yes? No? Some people are. Oh, okay, well.
And there's nobody on campus. What's going on around there?
Okay, so here we go. Nature. Now, this was published in 2001. So I'm going to go and find where the full text is available and include 2001. Oh, great, there's a whole bunch of them. Almost all of these, actually. Now, the other thing I'm going to look at is, oh, did you guys already learn what an embargo is? Oh, okay. That means that we do not have access to the most recent, in this case, 1 year. So if it says embargo 3 years, then we don't have the most recent 3 years. And the reason behind that is usually the publisher wants to make money off of it, so they sell access through different sources. And when we get access through like a database, sometimes there's an embargo. If you pay the publisher directly and get access through their website, then there's usually no embargo. But it's very, very expensive for us to do that. It's kind of like the cable companies. They're like, hey, we'll give you like 500 channels. And you're like, yes, that's great. And then you find out they don't include the 5 channels you actually like to watch. So it's kind of like that. But because this was published in 2001, it's in all of these. And then for me, I'm looking for like something that's familiar to me, like Academic Search Premier, because I know how the interface looks, so it's a little bit easier for me to find. This is terrible. Nothing's working. Sorry about that. Let me try a ProQuest one then. Okay. So usually on the next screen, remember this is the old-fashioned way of finding things. We're going to look for the year. And from here, actually, did this tell me what? Doesn't tell me the volume or issue number. That's all right. I'm just going to copy the title and search within this publication for it. Oh, yay, there it is. And here's my full text. Oh, look at that. This is a commentary. Did you guys know that the journals sometimes have like editorials, commentaries? Those are not peer reviewed. So just be careful about that. So there's my article. So that's the old-fashioned way of finding it. The quick way would have been this link working. And it often does work. I'm not sure what's going on today. So that's one way of using Google Scholar to help you find additional sources. The filtering options in Google Scholar is not as good as the ones in our databases. So, and you also get a lot more results in Google Scholar. You get 1.5 million results here, which sounds good until you realize you don't want to sift through a 1.5 million results. So again, another one of the reasons our databases are helpful, because the stuff that's in the, let's say, the science database is about the sciences, or agriculture is about agriculture. So you're much more focused. Those databases also generally are curating. They're deciding which publications to go look at. Somebody mentioned before, when you're evaluating sources, you want to see which journal it came from. So that's something that those folks do when they put these databases together. Oh, actually, also something that you want to look for is the publisher. If you're familiar with work in your field, you might be familiar with who publishes what. Like in the sciences, you know, Wiley is pretty respected, stuff like that. One other thing I wanted to talk about in terms of searching Google, in case you don't know this, I'm just going to go to regular Google. Did you guys know there's an advanced search for Google? Okay, so it used to be like over here, and I don't see it anymore, so they must have moved it. So when I Google Advanced Search, it tells me that, yes, this is regular Google. Google Scholar also allows you to do advanced search, but it's a similar concept. So in the advanced search, that's the only way I search. I rarely use the basic search. You get more control in the advanced search. So you can say, I want all of these words to be present. That's like the equivalent of the Boolean operator and, making sure that everything is there. I want this particular phrase. That's the equivalent of when we're searching our databases using quotation marks to say, I want this particular phrase. Over here, the example is rat terrier. Your phrase could be, you know, non-GMO or whatever it is. Any of these words, that's the equivalent of the or Boolean operator. Most people will use that if it's like related terms or similar terms, like teen or adolescent or young adult. None of these words, that's the equivalent of the Boolean operator not. So you don't want a certain thing, like depression, not the Great Depression, stuff like that. And this is pretty neat, numbers ranging from one to the other. I'm not sure how effective that is. Yeah, like, see, they've got dollar signs and stuff. I'm not really sure how effective that is in a big database like Google.
Is that pages that we're talking about, or what?
Oh, well,
time frame from the years or something?
That's the weird thing. Over here, they've got amounts, like dollars. Yeah. Then they've got years, and then they've got like pounds. So I'm not really sure how effective that is as a searching tool.
Weston, can we utilize all those search fields in one search?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. That's the great thing about advanced search. You're doing all of it. Right. And then
sometimes
there's.
I like to cook on a 6-burner stove with 5 pots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, if you try to search in our databases and it just seems a little too complicated, Google does index a lot more stuff than our databases do, so you can give it a try.
Yeah.
But again, keep in mind that's more stuff to sift through.
You're right. You're right. Someone I was checking out this article, and basically he was saying that the Ivy League colleges have most of their curriculum, their course catalog, free on Google. And the thing about it is we pay something between $1,000 in tuition, and the stuff is supposed to be free. Only catch it, only give you a credential.
Right. But you make a great point. Depending on the type of resource you're looking for, it may not be in our databases. Like if you're looking for like syllabi or other kinds of course content, it might be on Google. It's not going to be in any of our indexes and databases. So keep that in mind. Depending on the kind of source you're looking for, you may not be able to use our resources that we pay for. Instead, you got to use the free Google tool. So one thing that I wanted to show you is you can actually also search by domain. For example, I'm curious about what the government has in terms of organic farming. So I'm going to do my search up here, and then I'm going to say I want to limit my domain to just .gov sites. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the word site, S-I-T-E, colon, dot, that's a period, gov. No spaces there. So it's going to give me results that are all .gov. Here's EPA.gov, NJ.gov, USDA.gov, etc. So that could be useful to you guys. Again, it depends on what you're looking for. You know, what if... Oh, yeah, I've got the colon and then a dot and then the domain. And I believe I can do it for websites like .youtube.com here. So, I mean, for YouTube, you can just go to YouTube. But how about, oh, Rutgers. How about Rutgers? Rutgers probably's got something about it, right? Here we go. Organic farming, the site, colon.rutgers.edu. What does Rutgers have to tell me? So then I can go and I can look for stuff that way. So did anybody know that already?
Oh,
Yay!
I knew about the site. Yeah.
Oh, good. So that's something that I usually talk about. I know you see like internet searching and evaluating searches. I know all that stuff, but I tricked you. I showed you something new. So I'm actually going to pause the recording now and give you guys some time if you want to explore Google. If not, Anne can start talking about literature review.